Y'all had better appreciate this. I had to watch the fucking prequels again. So yeah, the inevitable Star Wars video. I realized I hadn't watched the prequel trilogy since seeing everything wrapped up in the train wreck that was The Rise of Skywalker, and I always had this conception that the prequels were better than I'd initially judged them. Like, come on, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones are objectively terrible movies that do their part to destroy the original trilogy, but Revenge of the Sith is a much better film than people initially gave it credit for. I went into The Phantom Menace fresh off a long discussion with my friends about the prequels. My position is that the prequels tell what is in my mind one of the best supervillain origin stories of all time. The story of a slave kid from a desert planet, growing up, manipulated by a powerful Sith Lord, trained by a Jedi who blindingly trust him to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force, and under the watch of the complacent and lazy Jedi Order, his life is destroyed and rebuilt by the only person who has ever shown true faith in him, only to have him completely lose everything he ever loved. Luke Skywalker explains it perfectly in The Last Jedi.
At the height of their powers, they allowed Darth Sidious to rise, create the Empire, and wipe them out. It was a Jedi Master who was responsible for the training and creation of Darth Vader.
And that's a really good origin story for a villain. And like I said, it's been a while since I'd actually sat down and watched the prequels without making jokes at their expense. And Jesus H. motherfucking Christ, is the Phantom Menace bad. I know people have done like feature-length breakdowns on how bad this movie is. The Red Letter Media one springs to mind, but damn rarely have I ever watched the complete majesty of the unmitigated disaster that was the Phantom fucking Menace. Jeez fuck. Where do I even start with this? Okay, so from the very first scene in the movie, I knew this was going to be torture. You know why? This line.
Tell them we wish to board at once.
With all due respect, the ambassadors for the Supreme Chancellor wish to board immediately.
Yes, of course. As you know, our blockade is perfectly legal, and we'd be happy to receive the ambassadors.
Never in my life, as a student of filmmaking or as a fan of movies, have I heard a line somehow so stuffed with information, so lifeless, and so unfucking necessary. Like, compare that to this conversation from 1977.
Darth Vader, only you could be so bold. The Imperial Senate will not sit still for this. When they hear you've attacked a diplomatic...
Don't act so surprised, Your Highness. You weren't on any mercy mission this time. Several transmissions were beamed to the ship by rebel spies. I want to know what happened to the plans they sent you.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a member of the Imperial Senate on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan.
You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take it away!
It's almost like there's efficient dialogue that establishes the characters in the world that they live in without needing to expose. I could rewrite this entire scene right now to make it work. Emissary 1 to Trade Federation flagship, requesting permission to land. Emissary 1, proceed to Hangar Bay 34. Droids will be waiting to receive the Chancellor's ambassadors. Look, I know we don't get a lot of air traffic control banter in the Star Wars universe, I realize, because it's not terribly interesting, but if you're going to open with it, in this movie at least, the least you could do is have efficient dialogue. The first line in Attack of the Clones are much easier to understand. Senator, we're making our final descent into Coruscant. See? Easy. We're on a government transport ship, flying over Coruscant. The person in tow is a senator with a lot of guards. Awesome. Good start. Actually, in Attack of the Clones, a lot of the dialogue is much more efficient, almost like someone bolted George Lucas to a chair in a screenwriting class after the complete disaster of a screenplay that was The Phantom fucking Menace. But this is a problem throughout almost every scene in that first movie. All of the ideas are sound. Like, okay, let's take this to the outline stage. Two Jedi are sent as ambassadors to resolve a trade dispute. After an assassination attempt cover-up by the Federation, they escape to the planet below. They run in with a local who helps them get transport to the capital city. At the capital, they save the Queen and have to run the trade blockade to inform the Republic of what's going on. Their ship is damaged and they have to get repairs on a local planet. While they're there, they meet a boy who one of the Jedi believes to be the Chosen One, and the boy helps them get the money they need to fix their ship by winning a pod race, and it's awesome. While they're leaving, they run into a Sith assassin who almost beats Qui-Gon, and he is awesome. Yes, because Darth Maul is awesome. They make it to Coruscant. The Jedi aren't fans of the plan to train Anakin, but Qui-Gon refuses to listen. The Queen forces them to take her back to Naboo, the Sith assassin finds them there, and the final battle for the capital city ensues. And again, probably one of the best lightsaber fights in the series. Qui-Gon is killed by Darth Maul. Obi-Wan promises to train Anakin. Okay. As a rough story outline, this is actually pretty good. Without knowing how the actual movie turns out, if I were someone running Star Wars, I'd probably sign off on this. It's got all the Star Wars stuff. Fights, politics, people with weird names doing awesome stuff, aliens, adventure. Good. You could do the exact same thing for Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. The story is not the problem. The problem is the screenplay. That and the acting. I'm sorry, I don't mean to pile on Hayden Christensen's performance here, because he didn't have anything good to work with. But acting opposite Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman, both great actors, he's the equivalent of a high school drama student on stage with the Royal Shakespeare Company. Well, okay, maybe that's 144 degrees of exaggeration. So where am I going with this? I think the point of Star Wars, and what makes all the Star Wars movies endure so much in the cultural zeitgeist, is that Lucas managed to capture the awe of watching those old Flash Gordon serials in movie theaters when he was a kid. Lucas and his friends had to add their own thoughts and their own creativity to these stories, and that's what Lucas managed to get us all to do on a cultural scale with Star Wars. The reason the prequels endure is not because they're good movies, but because we can't stop talking about how they're not good movies. People can't stop reading symbolism, subtext, and meaning into the final duel with Darth Maul at the end of The Phantom Menace. Lightsaber forms, force powers, abilities of Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Darth Maul, you can watch it is easily one of the best lightsaber fights in the series. But the fact that I've now written what I think is the longest script I've ever written about a movie that I don't even like, and have progressed over the course of writing it from searing criticism to singing its praises as a film, means something. Lucas has made something that endures culturally. Lucas has made a film that truly sticks with you. I think it was Hitchcock who talked about the refrigerator test, the idea being that it's a moment that works when you're watching it, but not when you open the refrigerator at home hours after seeing the movie. George Lucas has created the opposite of the refrigerator test. These are all films that work better when you're not watching them, when you're assigning significance and weight to the actions you saw on the screen separate from the actual text of the movie. The novelizations of the Star Wars movies are picked over so fucking hard. Seriously, look through the citations on any Wikipedia page. You'll find about 1 billion citations from the most obscure sources. People care so fucking much about Star Wars minutiae. Lucas has created the most addictive movie franchise that doesn't even have mostly good movies. George Lucas has proven time and again that he is capable of telling good stories. We'll get to the good movies later, but the best movies of the Star Wars universe had someone getting in the way of Lucas doing Lucas. The prequels were a rush job. Lucas didn't plan the movies out. He knew that they wanted to make a trilogy, but at no point did they decide to plan it out, to shoot them concurrently, to turn them into something coherent. I will admit this was still a pre-Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings world, where something like this was still a little out of the question. But the point of it all should have been to make good prequel movies to the original Star Wars trilogy. And it's almost like Lucas didn't care enough to put more than a few drafts of the script in. He should have thrown it at as many people as possible. Editors, filters, anything to get more opinions on the script and the sheer maddening badness of it all. Instead, he writes what can barely be described as human dialogue, boring scenes that do nothing for the plot, and yet we continually tear these movies to shreds to the point that the title of this video is a joke at the expense of having way too many videos about the Star Wars prequels.